Good morning, everyone. I am hosting very briefly here as our fantastic host is on vacation, Ellen. She should come back with some awesome photographs. Today we are going to see the presentation by Margaret Helthaler today, and she's going to discuss announcements and the resource areas and how to best and effectively use them. And you are already under control, Helen, so take it away. Or, sorry, Margaret.
Okay, great. Great, thank you, Jeremy. And I'm just going to add a little disclaimer at the beginning here that I shared with Jeremy. I have an 11-week-old puppy in my office here with me, and she was sleeping real nice until about 2 minutes ago. So if you hear me suddenly say no or something like that, it's because she's getting into something she shouldn't be getting into. But we'll try to get through this quickly. So I appreciate you joining me today. We're going to discuss how to use the announcement and resource areas in Brightspace effectively. We are going to, excuse me, review some best practices, and we'll also take a look at how to link to course content. So we're going to begin with announcements. Since announcements do not collapse in Brightspace, you should strive to keep the announcement content short and to the point. It's not like in eCollege where, we could collapse them and you could add a whole bunch of stuff there. You want to keep the announcements in Brightspace very short and to the point. It's a good idea to use visuals to attract attention when you can. And you can link to additional information in the form of lengthier content in the Resource Learner module. And I also suggest that you use start and end dates so announcements appear when they're relevant and they disappear when they are outdated. And this just keeps things neat. So when teaching classic courses, you want to post an announcement at the start of each course week. Now, in this example, you can see how a visual is used to attract attention, and it happens to be a screenshot from a video demo in the week 1 lectures, just something that I grabbed from the class, so it's not anything fancy. And you can see how the content provides a brief overview of the week's activities. And the announcement also includes a link to the week 1 overview that directs students to where they should begin. And we're going to talk more about how to link things in just a minute. And you can see that this example also includes a start and end date. Now, when you're teaching Pinnacle courses, you should post an announcement at the start of each milestone. Now, I find it helpful to include the date the milestone begins in the announcement name, and then to include the date the milestone is due in the content. This is especially helpful when milestones don't align with course weeks. It just kind of keeps everybody on track. Now, these details aside, the content is similar to the weekly announcements in classic courses. It provides a brief introduction to the milestone activities with a link to the milestone overview to send students directly to where they need to get started, and it features start and end dates. Now, I typically schedule milestone announcements to begin the day after the previous milestone is due and to end at the end of the day that the milestone is due. I'm sorry, the puppy is getting into something and I can't ignore her any longer. Let me just get her out of this. Sorry about that. She found a pile of papers. Sorry about that. Okay, so again, in terms of when to schedule the milestone announcements, it depends on when the milestones start and end. Now, in addition to weekly or milestone announcements, you may be asked to post announcements for surveys or to share student events. And these announcements should also be kept brief. So in most instances, you're going to want to upload the content to the Course Resource Learner module and then link to it in a short announcement like you see here. Now, we're going to talk more about how to link to course content in just a few minutes. So first, let's take a closer look at some of the ways you can use the Resource Learner module. So you can use the resource area to share lengthy information. Again, this could be related to policies or events or tips or samples or tutorials or any other resources that you can think of. And much of this information is green, meaning that it remains relevant for the duration of the course. So placing in the resource area instead of an announcement makes it easier to revisit. It's easier for the students to find it. So to add content to the Resource Learner module, I usually select Upload a File or Create a File. So I select Upload a File when I've been provided with a file for an announcement, and I select Create a File when I want to create content. Now this includes audio-video content. While it's possible to link directly to a video or other content, the Create a File option allows me to add introductory text to provide context. So that's why I prefer to create a file rather than create a link to a outside source or embed a video directly. Just adding that context kind of explains what it is and why it's helpful. Okay. So let's take a quick look at how to add content to the resource module. I'm going to show you how to upload a file and how to create a file. Now, you may already be familiar with this, but I know some folks aren't, so I'm just going to go through it quickly. So let me go ahead and pop into my Sandbox course here, and this is a good place to practice anything that you're looking to do that you're not completely familiar with. Don't forget you have these Sandbox courses where you can practice these things. So we're going to go to the Learning Path, and we're going to go down to the Resources Learner module. Make sure you're in the Learner module. This is where students are most likely to see the information. And here we're going to select Upload a File. We'll start with uploading a file. So you're going to have the file loaded to your computer, that you've downloaded from an email or whatever you've received. And in this instance, it's the online tips for PLUS students that we've been asked to share with students when we're teaching on the PLUS track. So I'm going to go ahead and open it. You can see it's a Word doc, so either a Word doc or a PDF, you can upload those files directly. So I'm going to say Open, and I'm going to say Add. And here you can see that it's uploaded the Word document. Now, if I want to change the name to make it something more relevant and meaningful to the students, I can come under here and select Edit Properties in Place and just click on the file name, and I'm going to call this Tips for Success. And that way I can make the title whatever I want it to be. It doesn't have to be the name of the file that I uploaded. And now if I come up here and I go to the course home, I can see that Tips for Success is now in the resource area. And if I click on the document, it's going to display the Word document exactly as it appears with all the formatting, the links, and everything intact. Now, because I'm connected to GoToMeeting and I have my VPN on, it's running a little slow. I'm not going to take the time for it to display the document. I would encourage you to give this a try in your Sandbox course and see how it goes. But again, you can embed the document directly in the learner resource area, all the formatting intact. And usually, if you have a better connection than what I have going on right now, it will display it for you relatively quickly. Now let me go back to the learning section, and I'll show you how to create a document, or create a file rather. So going under Upload, Create, and we're going to say Create a File. So this is different than uploading a file. Now we're going to create the file. And so in this case, I am going to embed a video, but I'm going to begin with a little text to create the context. So I'm going to call this Best Practices for Announcements, and I'm going to say, check out these best, can't type, practices. And I'm going to go under Insert Stuff, and hold on one second, sorry, I need to get the puppy again. I'm concerned she's messing in an area where my actual connection is, and I don't want her to eat the cord and me to lose all of you. So sorry about that. I had envisioned this going much smoother with her napping at my feet. Okay, so I'm going to come down here and select Enter Embed Code, and I do have a code from Screencast for a video that I had created for my faculty on best practices for announcements, some of which this presentation is based on. And so I hit embed, and I hit insert. And you can see now that I have best practices for announcement, little introductory text, and the actual video. And I can say publish. And if I go to the course home, you can see that that's there now as well. And if I go back to the learning path, I just wanted to show you that you can reorganize that information if you want it to be in a different order. If I go back here, just by clicking on this, if I wanted this to be under the questions for the professor, I can reorganize it just by clicking on these little handles here and moving it. And now when I go back to the course home, you can see that that information is there. And if I click on the best practices, it shows you that content, navigation, everything's all intact. I can go back to the previous page if I want to. Again, ideally, this would show the Word document that I had uploaded if I had a better connection right now. So that is how you would either upload a file or create a file in the course resources. So let's hop back to our presentation for a minute here. All right, so we've looked at how to add content to the resource area. Let's take a look at how to add links. So links are a great way to direct students to additional information and announcements, as well as an initial post or feedback, and that could either be in the discussion threads or in the grade book. What I'm about to show you isn't exclusive to announcements. It works for any area where you're creating content, where you can link back to that information that you have in the resource area, and that's where this really becomes helpful. So let's take a look at how to do that. So we're going to, this time we're going to do it as an announcement. So I'm going to go to announcements, create a new announcement, and again, just very brief and to the point. So tips for success, and I'm really having trouble typing today. So check out these tips for success if this is your first online class. And I'm just going to highlight the tips for success, hit the link button here, and I'm going to come down to content. So this is any content in the course. So you can see that's how I had brought the students to the week 1 overview in my week 1 welcome announcement. And in this case, I'm going to come down to resources. I'm going to go to learner, and then I'm going to find that tips for success document. And I've created that link. I hit publish. And now when I go to the course home and I see that announcement and I see that link, if I click on it, it's going to bring me right to that page in the resource area. So again, this is a really handy way of adding content to the classroom, additional resources, your policies, your due date policy, and then referring back to it in your announcements, in your initial posts. Any place you need to maybe remind students about your due date policy, you can use this link, and all that long content is right in the resource area. So just to quickly summarize our discussion before we end things here, is you want to keep your announcements brief, you want to add lengthy or green content to the resource area, and you want to link to that information in either your announcements, your initial posts, your feedback in the gradebook and discussion threads, anywhere where you're communicating with the students where you want to direct them to that information. So I hope you found this information helpful. I apologize for the distraction of the puppy. She's really cute and worth the trouble. I wish you could see her. But I do appreciate you joining me today, and I hope you found this information helpful. You're welcome to reach out to me via email if you have any questions. Jeremy, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Margaret, and everyone. Just as a reminder, this is the final 12 of 12 for the summer. We'll be on hiatus for a couple of months and be back at the beginning of September, as I recall. In any case, everyone have a safe and happy and productive summer, or restful, whichever works for you. And we'll see you again in the fall. Thanks, everybody.